we didn't come out trying to tell people how to be cool. We came out telling people we think they're cool the way they are.
Welcome to the Exploring Washington State podcast. Here's your host, Scott Cowan.
Welcome back to this episode of the Exploring Washington State podcast. My guest today is Fran Dunaway. Fran is the co-founder of a brand called Tomboy X. So Fran, what I would like you to do is give us the backstory of how you ended up in the Seattle area, because you're not a native. So how'd you end up in Seattle?
That is correct. I am not a Seattle native. I had just graduated with a master's from the University of Missouri in Columbia. And my girlfriend and I were trying to decide whether to move to the mountains of Colorado or to the beaches of Florida. We came to Vancouver Island on a whim and ended up realizing that you could have both beaches and mountains. And so it was a pretty easy decision after that. We loaded up the pickup a few months later and made the trek cross country.
So how long have you been?
Yeah, that was in 1987. So I feel like I'm a Washington native at this point.
Yeah, you get the pass. I think you've been there a long time. So that's interesting that you were in Missouri. What'd you get your master's in?
I got a master's of education in counseling psychology. At the time, I was working in group homes for developmentally disabled children and adults. And so that was the degree that I got and brought out to the Northwest.
Okay. So what's changed here since I'm curious to see your take on it. So what's changed since 1987? Traffic, for one thing. I mean, let's just be honest.
Yeah. Well, I started out, I didn't want to live in the big city of Seattle. Well, more specifically, my girlfriend didn't. And we ended up in Bellingham and, thinking, well, it was a little larger. The ideal town to us was Port Townsend, but we thought, well, we don't want to end up bagging groceries with a master's degree. So better head to Bellingham. And it turns out that the people bagging groceries had their master's degree there as well. So it was a challenge to we were wanting to get out of the group home world and do something different. But lo and behold, ended up opening the first medically fragile group homes for kids in Washington State.
Oh, and that was in Bellingham?
That was the first one was actually located in LaConner.
Okay.
And then we expanded. So within 5 years, I was the executive director of the agency and had over 60 clients and 40 employees.
Wow. Okay. That makes me just think of herding cats. I mean, just
it's a lot like that.
That just seems to be, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So when did you move down into the Puget Sound area?
In 1994, moved to Seattle.
Okay.
And that was, I had changed careers. I'd sold everything and gone to film school and wanted to be a producer. And so moved down to the Seattle area because it was a bigger market for the work that I was then interested in doing.
You're interesting to me because you've made some serious pivots. That's an overused word, but it wow. Okay. So you went to film. Where'd you go to film school? At the UW or
at Vancouver, BC?
Okay. All right. Well, it seems so different nowadays. It was easy to get to Vancouver back in the day. Now it seems like it's so hard.
Right.
So let's talk. Let me ask you about that. So what was the after film school? What was that like for you? What projects? What type of things were you working on?
Well, I really loved storytelling, and I'd always been kind of an amateur photographer. So my ideal would have been documentary. At the time, it wasn't a high-paying occupation, and so I gave myself a year to not work for pay because you kind of have to earn your chops in the film industry. So produced a few independent feature films and cobbled together gigs here and there. And then the following year, after my year was up of not getting paid, I started doing various video or film projects around the Puget Sound area. Worked at Microsoft, did a variety of things, and then picked up a seasonal client doing political advertising for Democrats nationwide. And so that was just at the end of every year. It was like, oh, a good steady. And every year it took up more and more of my time. And then finally they hired me on full time. And a few years later, I ended up being a partner in the media strategies firm.
Wow. Okay. And then you started a company in your garage.
Correct.
Like every good entrepreneur's story, it involves a garage. But before we go there, I don't know how much you know about this or how much research I do. Typically, I do very little research on my guests because I like to be surprised, the spontaneity of it. But I Googled your name and there's a lot of it. Your name you're easy to find. And so I did a lot more reading. But and so I'm on the Puget Sound Business Journal right now, and it says, and it's quotes, so I think it's you. When we started this company, it was just supposed to be a side hustle in our one-car garage. I mean, why leave a lucrative career with paychecks, vacations, and perks to leap off a cliff into the unknown? Okay. Clothing company. Super easy field, no competition, But my question that I haven't found the answer to yet online is, when you started this, were you actually making the clothing, or were you just the design team, or what? Because that part's I haven't stumbled onto yet. So can you help me?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. And it was just this idea. I wanted a cool button-up shirt. I like a Robert Graham type of shirt or Ben Sherman, and made with the fine quality fabrics that you can find in menswear, but you couldn't find in women's wear. Women's wear was much more fast fashion, so cheaper quality and no fun details around the collar, nothing with personality. And so I knew a friend that had worked for Tommy Bahama, so I reached out to her and said, hey, can you help us design these shirts? And she said, sure. So she helped us design the first shirts, and we actually kind of did a mini collection, if you will. And, to be clear, Naomi and I, we didn't know a knit from a woven. Do you hear that walking?
I do.
Speaking of Naomi and coffee, hi, Naomi. Thank you very much. I'll have to stop when I told Naomi, could you please go up and tell the woman with the high heels upstairs to go away? But so I'll just stop if I hear her walking.
Okay.
So yeah, we had a friend who'd worked at Tommy Bahama and said, can you help us design these shirts? We designed shirts, some polos, and some knit blazers. So a mini collection, because at the beginning of this, my wife and I didn't know a knit from a woven or a P&L from a balance sheet. So we had a lot to learn. So we were fortunate in that we found this, a friend of ours who helped us in that beginning part. We were able to find a woman-owned factory here in Seattle, and she had the caliber of sewers and machinery that could produce these beautiful shirts that we came out of the gate with. Okay.
You can't tell it by looking at me today, but I actually really enjoy Robert Graham's shirts. So I have a lot of them.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
I
awesome.
do love the attention to detail in them. They're kind of cool.
Exactly.
So when you launched with a mini collection, how did you, now I saw that you did a Kickstarter, but how did you bring these to market? Were they in boutiques, or did you just sell them online, or at first, how did this happen?
Well, at first was definitely the Kickstarter, and we sold through quite a few of them in the Kickstarter campaign. Mm-hmm. And then we are still 99% direct to consumer. So yeah, we've been online. We really chose a lane, which I think was an important decision for us early on. Rather than becoming a wholesale company, we chose to go the D2C route. It was pretty nascent opportunity, but there were some awesome things like this new commerce platform called Shopify, and a lot of plug and play. So it made it easy for us that Naomi was able to build the website, and off we went.
So Naomi built the website. Okay. And one of the things I read is you're kind of the big thinker, the the broad strokes, and she's more maybe the detail orientated.
Yes.
Companies need both. I applaud you on that. But the shirts, the initial line, but you ended up doing, loungewear. Maybe that's the right. What how did you guys get into what you're into now? Where was the kernel that grew from?
And so, the reality is that we knew we had something with the name, and about a week into the Kickstarter campaign, we had recognition, and we were like, oh, this name is really resonating with people around the world. We were hearing from women and girls that were like, yay, you've got a brand for me. Finally, I'm seen and heard by a clothing company. And so that to us was very interesting. And I think that was one of the smartest things we did. A, pick and stick with the name Tomboy, and then B, listen to our customer base. And so there was this mantra, this recurring mantra, not only from customer service, but from friends, which was, you guys should make boxer briefs for women. And we didn't know that wasn't being done. And so I went on to Nordstrom.com and typed in boxer briefs for women, and up came one pair of Spanx. And we were pretty sure that wasn't what our customer was looking for. So we said, let's pursue this, and told our friend who designed our shirts that we were going a different direction, and put into the ether that we needed someone with sourcing and manufacturing experience that could help us with boxer briefs. A week later, we received an email from a woman who had seen our shirts in the factory 9 months previous. She was impressed by the attention to detail and the quality and the name. And so she reached out to us to see if we might have any work for her. So needless to say, we hired her on the spot, and she set about making the first boxer briefs for women. And so several months later, she found a factory up in Canada, up in Vancouver, woman-owned factory again, and they worked together to design boxer briefs for a large variety of fit. And we brought them, we pre-sold them 2 weeks before they arrived, hoping that we would sell enough to pay for them. And lo and behold, we sold out before they arrived.
How big was that initial order? I don't know if that's an okay question to ask.
I think there were about 1,600 units in the very first order. It was one pallet full, and now we're shipping 2 tankers full. So that's how far we've come.
So first off, were you terrified when you ordered 1,600 units?
Yeah, it was a little disconcerting to know that, we had a $14,000 nut to crack in 2 weeks and did not have the money and had no idea how we were going to come up with it. So it was a bit of a risk, but that's what entrepreneurism is. Oh yeah, no, it's you. Okay. So then you said you shipped 2 tankers. I don't know what that phrase tankers mean. What is that? Oh, containers is what I meant on a tanker. Yeah. So you're shipping 2 containers at a time. Yeah. I think in the holidays we had 4 on the water. Wow. Okay. Yeah. So you sold out 1,600 units, and you probably at that point high-fived each other and realized you might have caught a tiger by the tail. Mm-hmm. What came next? I mean, so did you go back to the factory ordering more, or when did you start branching out, or how long were you just in the boxer briefs, and then before you branched out into other items? It didn't take too long. It was pretty easy because there were so many different silhouettes that we could dive into. The bigger challenge was, and so we evaluated, we looked at our numbers 6 months later, and we'd tripled our revenue. So we thought, maybe we're an underwear company, and that's where we need to put all of our eggs. But that takes some time to transition out, because what we had done after the Kickstarter campaign, we knew that people were loving the name and the brand. Mm-hmm. We had instant brand recognition. If you think about that for a minute, that's hard to come by with a name. You usually have to build brand into the names, but we had instant brand recognition. And so that was when we started trying to figure out what's the smartest thing for us to do with that. And so obviously we got hats and we got T-shirts and we got, we would buy blanks and put our logo on it and sell those. And so when we brought in the boxer briefs, we of course wanted to keep those in stock. And we right out of the gate, not only had diverse models and the people that we showed wearing our product, even prior to the boxer briefs, but we carried extra small through 4X right out of the gate. And that was important to us, all for the same price, because we felt like it was really important to not have that subtle shaming of, you need to shop in the women's department or the plus size area and pay more because, you're bigger. And so that to us didn't feel right. And I think being part of a minority community, if you will, that really taught us how to come out of the gate being inclusive. And we also, from the beginning, kind of turned the whole notion of brand on its head, because we didn't come out trying to tell people how to be cool. We came out telling people we think they're cool the way they are. And so those were key differentiators for us, was the inclusivity and the reflection of feeling good in your own skin.
Now, I'm going to have to say, you don't sound like an accidental entrepreneur, which is what you've stated you were. You sound like you came out of the gates figuring this stuff out. I don't know. I don't know if you can really be branded as an accidental entrepreneur. Where did you guys come up with this savvy from the very beginning?
Yeah, I'm an Army brat, and Naomi is from New York City. She's second generation Cuban American. So I just think that we're scrappy and make things work. We were always in very purpose-driven careers. I think that was an intentional on both of our parts, that we wanted to be part of something. We didn't want just a paycheck for a paycheck. In fact, it was a conversation we had very early on, which is, how do you feel about becoming a capitalist? And if we do that, how do we do it in a way that is true to our values, and how do we kind of imbue our values into every decision that we make? And so that was a conscientious decision just based on who we are. And then I think the other critical component here, because we're now married, we were then girlfriends, but is that we both had the same tolerance for risk, and didn't really have too much of an emotional relationship with money. And so I think those were two very big things. We were always just like, I've got a house in Mississippi. We can always end up there and grow tomatoes if we have to. So that was part of it. But it was really this drive to kind of provide a solution, fill a white space for a community that we knew very well, and that had needs and desires. And so we very soon started carrying different cuts. We next introduced our boy short, which is still our number one selling length. We now carry everything from a thong to a 6-inch boxer brief, and we carry them in triple extra small through 6X. So we've expanded the categories. And then we have swimwear, we have sleepwear, we have loungewear, and we recently launched activewear.
Wow. Help me out here, because I can't even envision what size human being would wear a triple extra small.
That would be the youth.
Okay. All right.
Yes.
Okay.
Without going into children's clothing, we offer very small sizes. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay. Because I'm like, wow. Okay.
I was sitting with a 10-year-old last night, and she said, do you have my size? And I said, in fact, we do.
That's awesome. Well, one thing I read online, since you mentioned Naomi is your wife now, I saw somewhere, can't remember where, so I can't give credit to where I read it. Your wedding was at a football game?
We had a flash flag football wedding, as a matter of fact, the day before the Seahawks and the Patriots played. And it was a good thing we did it the day before, because Naomi's a diehard Pats fan. And of course, I'm a Seahawks fan. I know. So she wore Brady's number, and I, of course, wore the 12. And we realized we had wanted to plan, much more elaborate wedding, but the business was growing. We had just been accepted into an accelerator program, And the idea of trying to figure out how to plan a wedding a year out in the midst of growing a business was just insurmountable. So instead, we decided to invite everyone we knew to this flag football game. So nobody could say, you didn't invite me to your wedding. And so everyone we knew was invited to a rainy day in Seattle to play flag football. And we had a friend who was she was a police officer and had just coincidentally become ordained to wed some other friends of hers. And so we said, hey, can you be the referee for the game? And then at the halftime, you blow the whistle and we do a ceremony and surprise everyone. And so it was pretty fantastic. I was bleeding from a tackle, and even though it was flag football, of course, we got a little carried away. So here we are out in Seward Park, and we walk down to the water and get married. So it was pretty great. We were FaceTiming. So Naomi had called her brother and sister-in-law that morning, and I'd called my parents. Her folks are in New York and mine are in Mississippi. And so I called my parents and said, hey, we're getting married tonight at 6, be ready. And it was really hysterical because we had them on FaceTime. We had designated 2 people to hold them on FaceTime so they could join us. And my parents, my dad, military, he's in his dress blues, and my mother's got a gown on. They've got a bottle of champagne. And I see my mom lean into the camera and she says, are they playing football?
Oh my gosh. So the question I've got out of all of this is, were you wearing your Seahawks jersey when you got married? You were actually, okay, so you were actually wearing the,
that's our wedding gowns. Yeah.
I love that. So your friends that did you guys normally have an organized football game that you participated in, or was this?
No, I had
so
to
this
order
is just a
all
random.
the flags, random.
Okay, so you
in a week.
We
planned it in a week and pulled it off.
I love that. That's awesome. That may be the most creative wedding I've heard of. Seriously, that's so cool. Wow.
It was fun. It was a lot of fun.
Oh my gosh! Your dad's in his
military
uniform, and you're wearing a football jersey.
It was awesome.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I had that. We'll back out of that rabbit hole and come back to the company. I wanted to ask that question. You brought it up.
Well, it was so fitting too for tomboys to have a football wedding, right?
No, I think it's great.
Yeah.
Running a business is easy. Bringing fashion to the marketplace is easy. There's never been any problem.
Yeah.
I like to ask this question of entrepreneurs because I think we learn from it. What was an unexpected challenge that you guys stumbled on during your early phases that you weren't prepared for?
There were a lot of things. Number one is probably because, my job was I had 2 jobs really. One was not to run out of money and not to screw it up. And then Naomi did everything else. But so
you had the hard jobs.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh my gosh.
So just fundraising. Fundraising was really hard. And excuse me, I get it because here we were, a lesbian couple with 0 experience in the industry, and we weren't 25, and there were just a lot of things kind of stacked up against us. But also, we just happened to be kind of riding the wave of the zeitgeist of what was going on. So I can't tell you the number of times that I sat down trying to raise some money from a room full of white guys that would say, well, what's wrong with Victoria's Secret? And so, we had, they have since learned that they were behind the zeitgeist. But that was hard. And then there were just other things in terms of hiring and how you think about hiring when you're working with 3PLs or third-party logistics for your shipping, and just a lot of things that we had to kind of learn via the School of Hard Knocks. And so, that's just part of the journey. It's neither here nor there, but there were certainly, if I were doing it again today, I would do a lot of things very differently.
Give me an example of something you would do differently today?
I think that, I could say one of the first things would be, I would have a network of people that I could easily get checks from. So that would be easy because now I have a tremendous network for investment. But the other thing I think would be one of the early lessons when we stopped doing our shipping internally and we moved it outside, we went to a company that had a lot of experience with wholesale, but they didn't really understand the direct to consumer. And so, then we moved the second move to not a very good one. So really finding that third party logistics or warehouse partnership early on that you can grow and scale with was important. And I think that we thought we could do it together, but that wasn't the right lesson. We didn't need to be teaching and learning with someone along the way. We should have gone with someone that knew what they were doing.
Okay. No, that's wisdom. One of the things that I saw about you, and you've got a picture behind you. Sorry, words can be hard for me sometimes. On Inc. 500, and I may be the only kid in America who started reading that magazine when it started coming out in 1980. I was, I always found Inc. magazine to be fascinating, and the Inc. 500 is, and I would, every year that I would look at it, I'd look and see what companies from Washington were in it, just because it was interesting to me. What was that like? Because you're the first, wow. You're the first person that I've ever had the opportunity to chat with that's made that list.
Thank you.
That I'm aware of.
Yeah. Well, we've made it 4 years in a row. We were on the Inc. 500 the first 2 years. And so, when it came out that first year and I think it says we were 231. I mean, that's pretty impressive. I was kind of blown away. I couldn't believe that we made that list. And, it's all relative in terms of the size we were and the growth spurt that was primarily because of introducing underwear, boxer briefs. Mm-hmm. And so, it was pretty incredible. And we were very proud of that. And then the fact that they came and shot our team and did a studio shoot, it was a big deal. It was very meaningful.
And now it's 4 years in a row?
4 years in a row. And in fact, yesterday's Inc. magazine came out and they featured us in the couples who have businesses together section. So
I read that. I did. So that was just yesterday. Somehow I read that this morning. Okay.
Yeah. It just came out.
Another place that I saw you was in Forbes 50 over 50.
Yes.
And how do I want to say this? We tend to celebrate young entrepreneurs, like the 30 under 30, the 40, and it seems to cut off at 40. So the fact that Forbes talked about 50-year-olds, and you started this company when you were how old?
I was 51.
51 years old.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I think by the time we get to our 50s, we're most of us, I think, are fairly risk adverse because we're looking to retirement and settle down and all this stuff.
It's very wise.
That's not me, but so I saw that article and it kind of resonated with me because I'm like, all right, what has your peer group said to you? What did your peer group say when you guys started this? Did they think you were crazy? I mean,
yeah, it's interesting. I don't think we were really paying much attention to what anyone was saying about us at the time, but I'm sure that people thought it was crazy. It was crazy. Look, that they aren't wrong. It was absolutely insane, and it was a huge risk at that age to take. And again, we just kind of leapt, and then it kept feeling like, okay, there's momentum. There's something here. There's something here. We have to keep at it and figure out what that is and what that means. And we can make a difference. And it's really important to us. And we have made a difference. We've made a difference in tremendous difference in people's lives. And we continue to make a difference. There's something coming in May that's going to blow everyone's mind, including mine. That I can't talk about, but it's historical. And so that's really why we did it. And so it was more of a responsibility than anything, especially in the early days. It was just that we had to do it. We wanted people like us to be seen and heard and recognized, and representation is everything. And so it was just an option. And honestly, we lost some friendships because of the fact that we became so absorbed and obsessed and, laser focused on building a company. And I think that people, miss the old versions of us where we didn't just want to talk about business all the time. But on the flip side of that, we now have a tremendous, vibrant community of fellow entrepreneurs. And, I feel like at 51, I found my people and in a really solid, strong way. So it's been a phenomenally wonderful experience for me personally.
What did your parents say when you said you were going to open a clothing line and underwear?
I think they'd been putting up with my insanity for so many years. I think they just probably rolled their eyes and thought, well, here she goes again. When I sold everything and went to film school, I think they were like, what? You've got you're executive director of a human services agency and you're going to go do what? So yeah, I think at that point they were just like, okay, more power to you. They did write the first check. So they did support.
They did support. Okay. That's, I mean, what more can we ask from our parents? I mean,
I agree. I agree.
Yeah. What more can we ask of our parents? I could, yeah. Anyway. Well, one thing, okay. So I had another question. So you kind of teed it up for me and I'm going to, bungle it, but, a gnome rogue.
Oh my gosh, World of Warcraft? Yes.
You played WoW?
Yes, I did. I had a level
You were one
80.
of those horrible little creatures.
Yes, a gnome rogue. And I like being in stealth mode. Oh yes, I miss that game to this day. But my wife said, absolutely not. I'm not moving here from Washington, D.C. if you're going to stay up till 4 a.m. playing some game. So I had to give it up.
So how many turkey? Oh. How many hours were you playing at your peak? What were you? I'm asking because I'm a reformed WoW player myself.
Oh, you are. I somehow would have guessed that, Scott. Let's see. I can't even imagine how many hours I was playing, and it would depend. I was in political, so during the political season, I was on the road 60-70% of the time, so I didn't play a lot then. But then, after the election, and I have the rest of the winter, and it's Seattle, and it's rainy. I can't even begin to tell you how many hours I played. And I was in a I had a great group of really friends and family. And so it was all, we had from 6-year-old to 65-year-olds in this group. And we would just go in and play together and nobody would know that we're, this kind of misfit group of people out there taking on the dragons and all the I
read that and I started laughing. I just thought, no, wait a second. This is not something that I think I've ever found published about an entrepreneur that they, I played WoW. Because, the hustle culture, the grind all the time. And I know this predates that for you, but it's just still, oh, if you could have seen my face when I read that for the first time, I was grinning. I was chuckling as I am right now.
Oh, I bet. So you'll know the inside joke, Leroy Jenkins, then.
Yes, absolutely. I started playing WoW when it first came out. I moved from another multiplayer game, and I stopped probably after the second or third expansion pack. Just started going in directions I just didn't quite. I was like, I don't know, storyline. My son. I don't know how many level 80 characters he had or has, but anyway, that's one of those games where, it's only 10 o'clock. Oh, it's 4 a.m.
Exactly.
How did I just lose 6 hours of my life without a blink?
Exactly.
Boom.
Well, I've always been an early adapter of technology. And so I don't know if you remember when the Sierra King's Quest games came out.
Yes.
And in fact, as a in my 20s, I had a huge callus from playing, Ms. Pac-Man all the time. So I've always been an early adapter.
All right. So I'll share my nerd badge of honor. I can't remember what year it was, but Nintendo had released their original Nintendo Entertainment System to the United States. Do you remember that? Okay.
Oh yeah.
And I don't remember what I was doing exactly for work. It was post college. there was an ad in the Seattle Post-Intelligencer at that time. That paper doesn't exist anymore, really. And it was a full page ad saying, we're looking for game counselors. Come and be a game counselor, help people explore new worlds, or, you know, blah, blah, blah. Full page ad. And it was either 200 or 300 people applied for this job. And so I end up at the Nintendo campus, and their criteria was, well, which games have you beaten? And I started saying what I had claimed to beat, and they go, well, prove it. And I was one of two people they hired because I beat the three games that they were, I had beaten the 3 games. And I beat Zelda, Metroid, and Kid Icarus. And in fact, on Metroid, I was able to show them some secret areas that weren't, you know, that there were Easter eggs that were coded in, and I had found. I was a game counselor at Nintendo for a while, answering phone calls from people across America on how to beat Super Mario Brothers. And I just did it for fun. It was just for fun.
That's fantastic.
And then after that, I ended up selling software at Egghead Software. Do you remember Egghead Software?
Oh my gosh, yeah.
And so I worked at the one in Bellevue by the Microsoft campus. So there'd be, you know, my first customer was Paul Allen. He came in to buy a magazine, and the manager, I'm like ringing him up because it's like my first time at the cash register, right? And the manager's like hovering over me, and I just, you know, thank you very much. And, you know, I'm just tunnel vision. And he goes, you know who that was? I go, no, I really don't. He goes, that was Paul Allen. I'm like, oh, okay. Well, I had no clue because I couldn't figure out the cash register at this moment in time.
Amazing.
Yeah, I kind of adapted this stuff early too, and I have to consciously keep myself away from it.
Yeah.
Productivity is. So are you playing any games now?
Yeah, actually, we have the Xbox One. I think I keep thinking that I'm ready to upgrade, but I haven't run that up the flagpole at home. And Naomi's the CEO at home. And so, gotcha. And so we play Borderlands 3. Well, we played the other ones, but yeah, Borderlands 3 is a game we'll play together. You know, we like to play for an hour or two, and then watch a show at night. And so that's our thing right now.
That's your thing. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Have you played that?
No, I have not played that one.
It's good.
I allow myself SimCity, build it on my iPad.
Okay.
And I've purposely disconnected my credit card so that I can't buy in-game purchases.
Brilliant.
Yeah. I just, so that's where I've gone.
Awesome.
Well, you tease something coming in May, and I won't push you too much on that, but I do want to ask you. So I did see something you recently came out with a Batman inspired.
Yes.
So what's the process like working with a major brand like that? Are they extremely easy to work with? Or are they extremely micromanaging?
Warner Brothers are great. They reached out to us actually, and you know, I'm pretty far removed from the details of the day-to-day of the business, but yeah, they've been a great partnership for us and really easy to work with. We do have to run the prints by them to make sure that they agree and approve them. But yeah, it's been a great collab.
Okay. Any type of collaborations coming up before you know in the near future? I'm not asking about the May thing. But,
the May
is there
thing
anything else? Yeah, no. But anything coming up for spring, maybe?
You know, let's see. For spring, it would be. Well, we've got we always have new prints that are dropping, but not any collabs right now. Not until May. That's the big one.
How often do you release new prints?
Usually once a month, once or twice a month. Yeah. We try to.
Wow.
Got to keep our current customers happy. They like the new print drops.
So let me ask you this question. What's been a print drop that was more surprising to you than it was more popular than you might have thought of?
Well,
anything pop to mind?
I don't know if I can think of one that was more popular than I thought, but I do remember, you know, in the early days, it would just be me and Naomi, and it'd be like, you know what, let's put dinosaurs on underwear. Our customer will love dinosaurs. And oh my gosh, we still carry dinosaurs. It's still one of our top selling. And
Okay.
so that was really fun. And in fact, I often tell the merchandising team that if they're looking for inspiration, they should go to the 8-year-old boy section of the store and see what's selling there. And that's our core customer. And so, yeah, colorful dinosaurs are the bomb.
Color. Okay. That's
I know, it's pretty wild.
So your title was co-founder and you were the CEO, and
Yes.
you've transitioned out of that role. So
Yes.
what's your role with the company nowadays?
I'm co-founder and president. And so I basically show up for our co-founder things like doing podcasts and doing speaker presentations. I'll be part of a group down in Nike in a couple of weeks. And so it's really just wanting to tell the founder story and to work on getting that story out. And then whatever else the team needs from us, we're here to help with. But we're out of the day-to-day.
And what's Naomi's role? Is it
a similar role, but she just, because she completed her big project, which was to get us B Corp certified. Woohoo! So last month we became B Corp certified, which is really shows our commitment to community sustainability and just our give back values and philosophy.
That's great. Congratulations. And how many employees are at the company nowadays?
We have 38 employees now, and I think we've got 2 job openings.
Did you ever think that you'd be having 40 employees?
Never. It's crazy. But the interesting thing about where we are now, because we've kind of moved out of startup phase and we're now into, real corporation. And so the skill set that we needed to build the company were generalists. We needed people that were utility knives that could do a lot of things. And now we're moving into scale. So we have specialists. So it's been really remarkable. I'm incredibly proud of the team that are still here, that have been able to adapt from being a generalist to a specialist. And then I'm also incredibly impressed with the caliber of customer of employee that we're able to bring in.
Next 2 years, what do you envision Tomboy X looking like in a couple of years?
I want to continue to see the company grow and scale. I think that we're a lifestyle brand and that we're here to stay and that we're here to make a difference. And so I want to be the next, $100 million company. So look out.
Okay. I am not too worried about you making that. Actually, I think that's you don't want to count your pennies before you get them. But
yeah,
I think that's
exactly.
Well, I want to wrap this up because I know, like you mentioned earlier, you've got more shows today doing. Yes. You're a busy woman. Tacos or pizza?
Depends on the day. Yeah, I guess I'd probably go pizza first.
Toppings?
Oh, pepperoni, mushrooms, and black olives.
Where's a great place to get a cup of coffee that I might not know about in the Seattle area?
Oh, gosh. It used to be called...
And that's my polite way of saying I know Starbucks.
Yeah, exactly. We've got a place by us that used to be called Bird on a Wire, and it's a little coffee shop just over in West Seattle, located, I think, on Barton and 35th. So a secret little spot.
Okay. And when you go there, what would you be drinking?
Oh, double tall non-fat latte.
And what would Naomi be drinking?
She would be drinking the same thing, actually.
Okay. What haven't I asked you that I should have?
Well, you got the gaming question, so that's the one that most people miss. Let's see. You should ask us about how much we give back because
absolutely.
Yeah, it's an important part of who we are. We've been from the beginning. We've always had a charitable component of the business, and that continues to this day. So I'm really proud of the relationships and the organizations. We've been very involved with Mary's Place locally, as well as youth care, and then internationally or nationally, there's a Trevor Project, which helps kids, LGBTQ kids who are suicidal, and then internationally, there's an organization called Safe Place, and it is a place that it helps LGBT refugees find housing when they've had to leave their hostile countries.
Okay. Actually, I came up with another question.
Okay, great.
If you could meet one entrepreneurial person, alive or deceased, who would you want to sit down and have coffee with and talk to?
Well, I've always said, I don't know if she qualifies, but, the difference that Sheryl Sandberg made in my life and in our lives and in women entrepreneurs' lives with the book that she wrote called Lean In. We happen to really benefit from that because it changed the way that women were thinking about helping each other. I think that for a long time it was, you have to elbow your way into the boys club, and once you're in there, you got to guard your space. And Sheryl said, we got to stop that. If we don't help each other, then no one is. And I think that is absolutely the truth. And that thought and that mentality just spawned, all of these different organizations in various cities. And then women started helping each other and building networks and opening doors and leaving doors open behind them. And I think that that's really made a tremendous difference with our business and the fundraising.
Actually, more questions are popping into my brain. I'm going to give you the power of the general manager, because since you wore a 12 jersey, who's the starting quarterback for the Seattle Seahawks this coming season?
I don't know. I wish they'd get Kaepernick.
Now, do you? I
know it's controversial.
No, that's not. No, and it shouldn't be.
I know.
My reservation about him is he hasn't played in 5 years. Fair. I don't know. That's the reservation I have, and I almost feel like the expectations I don't think would be realistic for what could be delivered on the field.
Right.
That's my honest reservation about Colin Kaepernick.
Yeah.
Is the 5, and I can't believe it's been 5 years.
I can't either. Wow. Look, as long as it's not Tom Brady, we're going to be all right.
Well, he's coming back.
I know. That didn't last long.
I'll be honest with you. The Russell Wilson thing followed with Bobby Wagner was a very gloomy. I'm still depressed.
Yeah.
I'm still depressed.
I can't say that I was surprised, but I'm more excited about the Kraken and the Seattle Storm back in the Climate Pledge Arena. That's exciting. I was looking at it used to be a season ticket holder for the Storm, so I'm ready to get back into that. So
okay.
Yeah.
And have you been to any Kraken games?
No, I haven't. I had an opportunity to, but I gave the ticket to my dad instead. So he and Naomi went.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
I have not been to one. I've never been to a hockey game.
Oh.
And I know. And I got to have one of these conversations with the Kraken's radio play-by-play guy. And, he just kind of looked at me like, what? You're talking to a hockey guy and you've never been to a hockey game?
Right. We used to go.
Are you a baseball fan at all?
I used to be. Back in the day, when we lived in Kansas City, I was a Royals fan, but I go to the games once in a while, but I don't really follow it.
That's not your sport.
No.
So if you had to pick one team to root for, and you can only pick for one team, who would you root for?
Seattle Storm all day long.
You'd root. Okay. The Storm.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Go Storm.
I felt like there was one other question on the tip of my tongue, and this is where I always, this is the informal nature of things. Well, I want to thank you for your time, and I think what your company is doing is amazing, and I love to see successful businesses make a difference.
Thank you.
Actually, I do know what my last question is. I got to pick my words. So, you mentioned earlier that when you were fundraising to start, you were knocking on the doors of white guys.
Mm-hmm.
And now you have a better Rolodex.
Very.
Are you seeing a change in the market of investors to being more diverse?
Yes. And I think, despite the dismal numbers, still last year, 2% of institutional dollars went to female founders. But there have been in the 9 years since we started this, and really we didn't start fundraising until 2015. So it hasn't been that long when you look at the scope of things. But the reality is that a lot of women have started new funds. We're challenging the way that people think about what makes a business successful. It's, the venture capital model has been very much winner takes all, as opposed to, think about if you have a portfolio of 10 companies and all of them do well, or all of them become $500 million companies, think of the jobs that you've created, think of the businesses that you've created and sustained versus one unicorn. And so that's a mentality that I think is changing, and in the way that people think about investment. And I think it's the way of the future. It's about taking care of communities and the environment. And so I also think that people are focusing much more on companies that share their values. When corporations were deemed personhood, I remember. And if you're going to be deemed personhood, you've got to show up and be responsible for the actions and your impact on the planet and on people's lives. And so I think that that's an important piece.
I agree very, very strongly. By chance, are you watching the show on HBO called Super Pumped, the story of Uber?
Oh, I can't wait to watch it. I'm addicted to those kind of shows. I haven't watched it yet.
It's on.
Okay, great.
It's on. And so it's on Sundays. And so the last episode I just watched, and I was just like, it's the 100%, it's the other side of the coin from what you just suggested.
Right.
Okay.
Yep.
And it just feels, there's a line, and I'm not going to do it justice, but basically one of the early investors was saying, you're not taking care of your people. And the founder's line was, well, people still shop at Walmart. People still eat at McDonald's.
Yep.
They don't care what we do.
There you have it.
And I was just like, wow. And it was pretty powerful, and made me like, my wife said, she goes, I'm never taking an Uber again.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
I haven't. I haven't.
Yeah. I believe that the company's trying to modify its behavior, but I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah.
Anyway,
it's kind of like the Victoria's Secrets, right? It's like, okay, now they're pivoting. Now they're suddenly having diverse models. Now they're rethinking the way of doing. But the reality is that they were formed based on a certain set of values. And so that's why, why give it a second chance? Why not go with companies and founders that were developed or because of what they believed in, and they've stuck by that? So yeah, I deleted the Uber app many years ago and only take Lyft because of that very thing. But I think that's the thing. We have to hold companies and people accountable for their actions, regardless of if they're in the past or not. And they're trying to, bring in new guard, but that doesn't change the fact of what the principles that they were built on.
Right.
So I can't wait to watch it.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's I can't tell you it's enjoyable. I'm not going to tell you that you're going to enjoy the show.
Right.
But it's going to be, yeah, it's going to probably make you annoyed and, dare I say, even angry.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you watch Billions?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
And try to get caught up in the Theranos one, read the book, and just read
I haven't done that one.
Oh, that's incredible. And then the Sackler, Dope Sick.
Yes, I haven't watched that either, but yeah.
Yeah. So I read that book about the Sacklers, and talk about get angry. I mean, it's just horrifying. But yeah, I've become quite the addict for any kind of business topic books.
Well, I will tell you this, because last night after watching the episode of Super Pumped, I went and looked on my iPad and did, looked it up, and I ended up buying the book and I started reading it. But so this is going to wrap up in just one season, but they're going to do another season, and it's going to be about Facebook.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah. So that'll be fascinating.
So, well, we're certainly not talking your business now, are we? Well, thank you so much. Oh, I know. Oh, yeah. One last question. Yeah. You're going to go out to dinner on a Thursday night. Where are you going to go?
Il Nido.
I always love to hear these tips where people go in their communities.
Il Nido in West Seattle. amazing pasta, amazing service right down on Alki in the old Homestead building.
In the old Homestead. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Fabulous.
All right.
Although next Thursday, I'm going to the new place, and I'm going to space out on the name in Georgetown, but the former chef at Canlis opened a place in Georgetown, and it's weeks before you can get in. Yeah. He just opened it up, and I hear it's quite exciting. But actually, we're going on a Wednesday because that's Tomo is the name, Tomo. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll keep an eye out on that one. I had not heard about that one.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for being here. I really enjoyed chatting with you today.
Same to you, Scott. It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Join us next time for another episode of the Exploring Washington State podcast.